Hey y'all, I'm Sarah, and this is Apocalyptic Pep Talk. If you're new here, welcome to the chaos. If you've been around for the books and the cereal, welcome to the chaos in a different format. Here's what this show is and isn't. It's not a blueprint for making six figures this month. It's not a content strategy masterclass. I'm not going to tell you to adjust your mindset and post more reels. I would never do that to you. What this is an honest look at the increasingly weird experience of being an author in an algorithm-driven world, what that does to our creativity and our identities, our ability to feel anything about our own work. And it's about how we keep going anyway, because we do, somehow, against all available evidence that we should. So grab whatever caffeine situation you currently have going on, and let's keep going. Welcome to the very first Apocalyptic Pep Talk. Today, we're starting with something I keep hearing. Some of us are whispering it like a confession. Some of us are saying it through tears. Some of us are getting kind of ragey about it. It goes something like this. I think my creativity is broken. I hear it from writers who used to love their work and now dread opening their manuscripts, from authors who once had 17 ideas before breakfast and now sit in front of blank documents feeling nothing, from creatives who are technically still producing, still hitting word count, still posting, still showing up, but they feel like they're doing it in a fog. And every single time they land on the same conclusion. My creativity is dead. But you know what? No. Here's what's actually happening. It's not your creativity that's dead. It's your boredom. Boredom has a terrible reputation. We've spent the last few decades engineering it out of existence. We're on the phone in every waiting room, listening to a podcast on every walk. We've got content queued up for every spare minute of our lives. The average human now has access to more stimulation than any human in the history of our species. And we have collectively decided that this is fine, that boredom is a problem to be solved, a bug instead of a feature. But here's what we lost. Boredom is not the absence of creativity. Boredom is the precondition for it. Your brain, when left genuinely unstimulated, starts generating. It pulls on threads that don't obviously go together, makes connections between unrelated things, asks what if with no agenda. That's your brain's default mode, its background processing system, and it only fully activates when you're not consuming something else. Every story you've ever loved started in someone's boredom. Every character who felt real, every world that felt lived in, every plot twist that genuinely surprised you. It all came from a brain that had enough empty space to wander. We have removed all the empty space. And then we wonder why the ideas stop coming. I'm not here to tell you to delete your apps and go live in the woods. I'm not recommending a dopamine detox or a digital sabbatical. No 45 minutes of morning pages before you're allowed to check your phone. I wouldn't do those things, so I would never suggest them to you. One thing I will suggest, try opening your manuscript first thing. Get those words down before you get your scroll on. This podcast is for people who are in the machine, people like me trying to build something real inside a system that was not designed with creative work in mind. The question isn't, how do I escape the internet? It's what's actually happening to us in here, and what the hell are we going to do about it? Here's what's happening. You finish a scene, you close the laptop, and before it shuts, you've already got your phone out. Before your brain has had a single second to process what you just wrote, you've handed it something else to consume. You're in the shower, on a walk, doing the dishes. You know you're listening to a podcast, an audiobook, or maybe it's a TED Talk. You're composing an email in your head, or you're running through your to-do list for the 33rd time that day. Every gap filled, every second accounted for. And then you sit down to write and wonder why the words don't come. They don't come because you never gave them room to arrive. Creativity doesn't show up on command. It shows up in the margins, in the 15 minutes where you're slightly bored and your brain, left to its own devices, starts pulling those threads, making strange connections, asking what if with no agenda. That's not laziness. That's the generative process. That's where the good stuff happens, y'all. We've just forgotten because we haven't let ourselves experience it without guilt in years. The discomfort you feel when there's no input, no stimulation, nothing to respond to, That's not emptiness. That's your creativity clearing its throat. And it gets more specific than that because it's not just that we're constantly consuming, it's what we're consuming. We're consuming the market, the metrics. We're scrolling through what's performing, absorbing what's selling, watching others announce releases, and tracking their rankings and talking about reader engagement. And I'm exhausted just listing it all. Here's the thing. We actually have to do that stuff. I'm not going to stand here and tell you to ignore the market because that's not useful and it's not honest. Knowing what's selling, understanding your genre, paying attention to what readers want, that's part of the job. It's real work, but it's one kind of input. And a lot of us are treating it like it's the only kind because somewhere in all of that market research and metrics watching, we absorb a very specific idea of what a story should be, what's commercial, what's trending, what the algorithm's rewarding this month. And that idea gets loud, louder than our own instincts, louder than the weird, specific, deeply personal story we actually want to tell. The internet is extraordinarily good at telling you what other people want. It is extraordinarily bad at helping you figure out what you want to create. Those are not the same skill. And we've spent so long optimizing for the first one that a lot of us have lost access to the second. We've gotten so good at reading the room that we've stopped hearing ourselves think inside it. Your weird, dark, personal, doesn't fit the current trend idea starts to feel like a problem. So you push it aside. You start something that makes more logical sense. You do research. You make a plan. And you feel nothing. Because the noise filled all the generative space. And what's left isn't your creativity. It's an echo of everyone else's. Your creative well needs input too, not market data, not metrics, but the stuff that made you want to tell stories in the first place. Books, paintings, music, knitting, sculpture, a conversation that goes somewhere unexpected, beauty that has nothing to do with your brand. We've gotten so good at one kind of consuming that we've starved ourselves of the other. And you cannot write from empty, y'all. So what does filling the well actually look like? Because I think we've convinced ourselves that we're doing it when we're not. Reading in your genre doesn't count. No, you know what? Scratch that. It absolutely can count, but only if you're actually lost in it. Only if you've forgotten you're a writer and you're just a reader who needs to know what happens next. The moment you're clocking structure, benchmarking the spice level, or thinking about your own release strategy, well, guess what? That's work. Good work, maybe, but not quite the well-filling we were aiming for. The test is simple. Are you consuming it or are you in it? Reading outside your genre absolutely counts. Wildly outside. The further, the better, y'all. Pick up the thing that has absolutely nothing to do with what you write and read it anyway. You write historical fiction? Try reading Dungeon Crawler Carl. Art counts, music counts, sitting in front of something beautiful that you did not make and just letting it be beautiful totally counts. Not analyzing it, not thinking about what you can learn from it, just receiving it. Conversations that go somewhere you didn't expect. The one that starts out about one thing and ends up somewhere completely different, and you drive home slightly buzzing because your brain got genuinely surprised, totally counts. Experiences count. Life is all about experiences. Anything that puts you in your body and out of your head. Anything that reminds you what it feels like to be a human person having a human experience instead of a content creator managing a pipeline. And here's what doesn't count, even though we tell ourselves it does. Book talk. Author newsletters about productivity, podcasts about the publishing industry. I say this as someone who makes a podcast about the publishing industry. Turn me off, go touch grass, read a book, stare at a Pollock painting, meet a friend for coffee and have a face-to-face conversation, then come back and listen. Consuming content about writing is not the same as filling your creative well. It keeps you in the same headspace. It keeps the noise going. The well gets filled when you stop being a writer for a minute and just be a person who reads weird things and looks at art and has conversations and occasionally sits in a coffee shop and stares out the window and thinks about nothing in particular. That's not wasted time, y'all. That's a big part of the job. Your creativity isn't gone. It's still there. It's been knocking. We've just gotten so good at filling every moment that we've stopped hearing it. The world we're making art in right now is genuinely strange. The pace is strange. The visibility is strange. The expectation that we can simultaneously be the artist, the marketer, the brand manager, the content creator, the compliance department, and the fucking CEO all at once, all the time, all in public, that's strange. And it would be very reasonable to conclude that it's killing creativity. I don't think it's quite that simple. I think the algorithm creates conditions that make creativity harder. I don't think it kills it. Creativity is stubborn. It keeps showing up. It keeps knocking. We just have to get quiet enough to hear it. Your creativity isn't dead. It's been trying to get your attention, and you've been very, very busy. Okay, exhale, unclench yourself, and let's keep going. That's episode 1 of Apocalyptic Pep Talk. Thank you all for being here. If any of this landed, find me in the comments and let's talk about it. New episodes every Wednesday. Bring your ambition, your existential dread, and whatever caffeine situation you currently have going on. See you next time.